Thank you everyone for joining us today for our latest PRCA Midlands NextGen webinar on all things AI. We've all watched artificial intelligence increase its relevance in our lives over the last few years, but perhaps more recently it's at the forefront of our conversations with the introduction of ChatGPT in November last year. It's spoken with excitement by school kids in the playground and confusion by older generations, and a real mixed bag of emotions by PR professionals. So ChatGPT has certainly brought AI into the mainstream debate. Joining me today to ask what on earth this all means is Stephen Waddington, founder and managing partner of Wads Inc., a professional advisory firm which works with agencies and communication teams on all things PR. Stephen, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me. Sorry, I'm just going to try and move to a desk where there's not quite so much glare.
No problem.
Thanks for having me. Am I good to go?
Yeah, you're good to go. How are you?
Yeah, no, good. Sorry, I'm as ever jumping from one Zoom to the other. So, but I'm glad to be here. What you guys are going to get in this session is actually a warm-up for what I'm presenting. I'm running a workshop at the PRCA CRPR NextGen Growth for Business conference in Birmingham next week. So I thought what I'd do is try out some material on you about what's happening in the market and give you a bit of insight ahead of next week, and so it'd be good actually to get your feedback on what I'm presenting and what you think. I've got a deck here that I'm going to share. Can you see that? We can see that. Good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump backwards and forwards between this deck I've produced and some practical examples I want to show you of the types of things we're doing at Wads Inc. with AI, and hopefully give you a little bit of inspiration for the potential of this technology. Right, this in itself, so I use a platform called Beautiful AI. Beautiful AI is in itself an AI application that provides you with it's one of the applications that sits on GPT-3, and it provides you with design level expertise, I would say. So completely democratizes how we put together decks and how we present. It's just an example of the explosion that's happening at the moment within the tools. Actually, this application is quite mature. It's about 3 years old, but it's like having a designer sat alongside you when you're putting decks together. It's just a great example of where this technology is going and how it's helping us. So 3 things I want to do today. I want to cover what's happened in the last 6 months and why there seems to be this explosion in AI. Actually, this for one reason, and that Sam's already alluded to it, as the launch of ChatGPT by OpenAI. But actually, there's been a 5 to 10 year lead in to the development of this technology, so we can talk about that. I want to talk specifically on the impact on public relations practice, and there's 2 big areas where it's having an impact, and then what it means for all our careers and the future. I'm getting a message that screen sharing is paused.
I can see it, Stephen.
Can you see my deck?
Yeah.
Okay, something's kicking up an error. Okay. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. So why should you care about AI? 2 massive reasons. The first one is the reputational impact on your organization, or if you sat in an agency, the clients with which you work. And there are 3 big areas of risk that I'll talk to you about. Then secondly, the impact of AI on your job and the work that you do on skills and productivity. We're sat at the moment in the UK. The UK has a big challenge globally with productivity, partly as a result of issues related to the COVID pandemic and our response to the COVID pandemic, but also as a result of larger macro factors such as Brexit. And AI potentially is being looked at as a way that we within the UK could solve our productivity issues, and certainly within the public relations sector, within the professional services sector, it does provide that sort of potential. I thought it'd be useful to start off with some definitions. So artificial intelligence as a term, the technology has been around since the 1950s. It's a bit of a misnomer in that it's artificial, so it's fake intelligence, and it isn't actually intelligence in the way that we think about human intelligence. It's computers manipulating data sets to identify patterns and to respond to queries of those data sets. And the intelligence comes from the fact that it appears to be intelligence because it's beyond the domain of our comprehension of human beings and able to manage so much large amounts of data. Now, that data, the data sets it works on, artificial intelligence works on, are called large language models. And the one you know about, Sam's already talked about, is ChatGPT that was launched late last year. There's lots of other large language models in development, though both within the Western sphere, within China. Anywhere where you have a large data set, maybe within your own organization even, you have this opportunity to create from that a large language model that you can then use and train a machine to interrogate.
Just before we continue, should we be seeing the ChatGPT screen or a PowerPoint deck?
No, a PowerPoint deck. Sorry, that's what I'm...
We can see a ChatGPT screen at the moment.
Oh, okay, sorry, you're on the wrong thing. Sorry.
That's okay.
Tech fail. Sorry, just bear with me. Let me come back to Zoom. Sorry, just bear with me.
That's okay.
Stop sharing. Right. Let me share again. See. Try to be too clever and jump between too many different things.
Yeah, Alex has said it's not a presentation without a tech fail. Completely, Alex.
It certainly is. It certainly
Thank
isn't.
you.
It's like working with kids and computers. You probably shouldn't do either in a professional environment.
That's brilliant. We can see that now.
Okay, cool. So, sorry, here's what you've missed. Reputational impact on your clients or organization, impact on skills, potential to improve productivity, particularly in knowledge work, professional services domains. Some definitions. AI, it's a misnomer because it's artificial. The notion of intelligence comes from the ability of it to process huge amounts of data that's beyond human comprehension. So to us, it's intelligent. It's based on manipulating a large language model. Sam, you've already talked about ChatGPT, based on the GPT-3 dataset that was launched in September last year. That data set was based on 17 gigabytes of data, which were books from Google Scholar websites and Wikipedia. GPT-4 has since been launched. That was launched earlier this year, based on 45 gigabits of data. GPT-5 is already within the works and will be launched in the summer of next year. OpenAI has said. So some basic definitions. I want you to think about how this technology works. There's a huge fear around this technology because of this notion of intelligence. And actually, keep coming back to the fact that artificial intelligence is basically a machine recognizing patterns and responding to queries made of a large language model. And it does that. And I've got this brilliant quote here from a linguist, John Rupert Firth, wrote it in 1957. This is often misattributed, actually. But the seeming intelligence of artificial intelligence is because it has a huge amount of data, and it's able to make predictions based on that data because of the associations of words and the knowledge it has of words based on the large language model. If you think, you've got a data set of 17 gigabytes worth of data, now 45 gigabytes for GPT-4, that's a huge volume of data that gives machine, in this case OpenAI's machine, ChatGPT application, a huge data set from which to make to be able to predict. And it does this by association. If you will have been exposed to this technology already if you've used any of the Google email suite or document suite. There's an autocomplete function built into that, and it has been there for 3 years or more, that provides exactly this function. This technology is not new. It has been with us and amongst us for 10 years at least. Why is it suddenly so hot? It's because of OpenAI. OpenAI took a massive risk in November last year when it launched ChatGPT based on the GPT-3 data set. It launched this tool into the market via a web browser, completely democratized it so that anybody with access to the internet could basically get to use this incredibly powerful large language model and manipulate it. That was superseded by GPT-4 in January. And then we saw response, and there's been various responses now from different organizations playing catch up, launching their own large language model, Bard, in March 2023 from Google. Google had held back from launching its AI technology earlier in the same way as OpenAI, because it was concerned about misuse and some of the issues I'm going to talk about related to risk. It wanted to ensure that it had guardrails in place, and there was a infamous case when it did finally launched Bard, that the technology in the live demonstration created misinformation, and that's one of the issues I'm going to come on and talk about. I think you can ignore this technology for now if you're a Luddite, and if you're not concerned about innovation. You will not be able to ignore it from March, April 2024, when Microsoft launches Copilot across its Office suite of products. So if you use PowerPoint, Word, any of the Office products, you will have access to a support application from spring of next year, which will give you live access to the OpenAI database, and you'll be able to do some of the things I'm going to show you in a minute. That you can do that you can do using the OpenAI interface at the moment. Microsoft's that integration has been complete. It's been rolled out in beta already. As I say, it's going to be available in spring 2024. GPT-5 is coming in summer 2024. So this technology is developing at incredible pace. Interestingly, there was a bragging competition initially, who's got the biggest large language model. So OpenAI initially came out with a 17 gigabyte one, then a 45 gigabyte one, and they were used by Google. Everyone shut down talking about how big their language model is, because they've realized that there's always going to be bigger, and this technology is going to continue to develop at pace. Now, why is it a concern for your employer, for the organization you work for, or if you're in an agency for your clients? 3 reasons. These reasons are all really well understood. The CIPR has had a panel since 2018. I was the founding chair of it. That has looked at a lot of the issues related to the impact on professional services and ethics in the public sphere. And the three big issues, you can go and download a paper, I'll give you a link to it at the end. Three big issues related to organizations are the fact that if you're using OpenAI or Google Bard, you're using a tool that's been coded and developed by Western white middle class people based on a data set that is Western white and middle class. So the system inherently has bias. If your organization is developing its own AI systems and using AI to make sense of its own data, these issues will also be prevalent. The technology is only as good as the data set and how it is coded. If that coding has bias, if the data set has bias, that's going to be magnified. It is astonishing, second point, how easy it is to create content. Astonishingly easy to create content. Content might not be very good, it might be low value, but we saw through Brexit, we saw through the election in 2022 in the UK, we saw through the US election. Interestingly, we've got elections coming up in the UK and the US in 2024. How much misinformation can impact the public sphere and public conversation. We ain't seen nothing yet. If OpenAI and large language models like OpenAI, like the ChatGPT, are industrialized and used, weaponized, they could have serious consequences for the public conversation. So that's a big concern. And then the final point is copyright and privacy. If the larger language model is based on public aspects of the internet, this issue has arisen related particularly to imagery, then if you're using these tools to create content based on original content that's created within the large language model, who owns the copyright on that new content? And do you know what? We don't know at the moment because there's no regulation. That's what I want to come on to. First, quick brief for Pinocchio, quick stop for Pinocchio, video of Pinocchio, because these tools can be used, incredibly powerful, to support us, but they can also be used and then weaponized to create misinformation. How are we addressing that? Well, there's three fronts as it relates to practitioners in the UK. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister in the UK, has said he wants to create a centre of excellence within the UK for AI, and have it as one of the leading places for development of this technology in the UK. He's committed 100 million in funding to an AI task force. Actually, the UK Parliament is behind on in terms of regulation. There is an AI working group, but there is no, if you work in public affairs, you will be aware the issues in the current Parliament. There's going to be no space before the next election for us to create any form of regulation in the UK around AI. So that means we're looking to Europe. Europe is debating this, and is interesting. There was a debate in Brussels only last Wednesday around the guardrails that the European Parliament wants to put in place for this technology, focused on efficacy. What they want to do is ensure that anyone that launches a product, launches an AI tool or application into the European Union market that has an impact on European citizens, has appropriate guardrails in place. And then, similar, the US actually, in his surprise, the US has taken a similar action in wanting to, federal government at least, in wanting to ensure regulation around safe application. Point here is it's going to take at least 18 months to 2 years before there is any form of regulation in any of the jurisdictions that impacts the UK, possibly even longer in the UK. So you hear this term described as you hear AI described as the Wild West at the moment. And this is why, because, there is no regulatory framework. So we published a paper at last week on this issue, because, you know, as Sam said, it's red hot in public relations at the moment, and the conclusion of that is it can help us work. It can help us work smarter, and act as an assistant or a researcher. And I'm going to show you lots of ways in which you can do that. But it also has the potential to eliminate roles and create misinformation. And so, you know, we're balancing this double-edged sword right at the moment. So what's the impact on public relations practice? 4 areas that we've identified at Waddington. We've been looking at this technology well, I've been looking at this technology for 5 years, working through the CIPR through its AI panel. We've been looking at this in anger at Waddington on behalf of our clients for the last 6 months, in terms of, you know, where it could be have useful application into workflow, and either help us work more efficiently or help us more work smarter. And 4 areas, 4 buckets we've found. So first of all, the obvious one is, if you tried ChatGPT, you know, you'll be aware of how easy it is to create text on any subject. I'm going to show you some examples of that shortly. It's also very easy using Midjourney or DALL-E to create imaging. At the moment, there's loads and loads of issues around the quality of those images. You probably almost certainly won't want to use them in any sort of external communication activity, but, you know, you can see where the technology is going. Second area, it's interesting, all the focus is on generative technologies and generative AI, so-called, but actually one of the most useful applications within the public relations function is reductive AI. So this is where you take large amounts of information to create summaries, to create press releases, to create presentations of maybe an original document. I'm going to show you some examples of that. You know, it's really good if you've got, for example, I've got a colleague at this moment looking at the government green paper on, the government white paper on green energy. You know, it's impenetrable 160-page document, but we put it through an AI application called WordTune that sits on top of the ChatGPT application, and for every page, it's extracting the key points and almost giving you crib notes straight away. So reductive AI, incredibly useful. It's really useful for evaluation and modeling. So you can ask it, because it has so much data, you can ask it for alternative perspectives to your own. And yeah, you know, to the point you can ask it to make judgments on media coverage from a certain perspective. So, you know, there's a whole conversation going on within the media evaluation community about the potential of this technology. And then from there, you can use it to spot patterns, to spot trends. So we've done a lot of work already synthesizing stakeholder interviews and looking for trends and spotting patterns within that, to gain insights that, you know, you wouldn't otherwise be able to get without lots and lots of manual work. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut this deck down. I'm going to go on to ChatGPT, and I'm going to try and demonstrate to you the opportunity, the potential of this technology to mimic the function of an account executive. And within the next 10 minutes, I'm going to provide ChatGPT with a report that we've produced and ask it to do the basic functions that you possibly ask a copywriter or account executive within an agency, or a comms manager within a public sector or private sector team to do. So, you know, this is a typical function within our role, that you're given a piece of content, you're asked to create a press release, and from that create headlines, quotes, media pitches, media lists, and perhaps source an image to create a media package that can then be taken and sold into the media. Now, I'm going to stop sharing, come back on screen. and go back and share my ChatGPT window to do this. Okay, can you see that? You should be able to, Sam, can you see that?
Yep,
ChatGPT, right, okay. So ChatGPT, is available in a couple of flavors. You can go and register an account for free, where you'll be able to get access to the smaller web database, GPT 3.5, or you can pay $20 a month and get access to GPT-4. If you get access to GPT-4, you're given stronger SLA, and you're also given commitments to speed. So, you know, it's not quite enterprise ready, but it's pretty close. So what I'm going to do is, and this is, bear with, because this is a risk. What I'm going to do is close that. I'm going to flip between some applications way. There's no elegant way of doing this. And I want to show you this document, which is a Word version of the report that we wrote published last week on the impact of AI in public relations. You can see, you know, it's standard format. It's as you might get any sort of standard report. It's about 2,500 words. And what I'm going to do is save this down in text format. You could cut and paste from we could cut and paste it from Word, but you know, there's tables in it and it'll create a bit of a mess. So I've saved that now as a Word file, as a text file. I'm just going to share that. Sorry, there isn't a neat way of doing this in Zoom. And you can see we've got a text file now with all that text in it. Right, so I'm going to grab all that text, and I'm going to go take you back to ChatGPT. Right, ChatGPT, this is a commercial version, $20 a month. And we're going to say to ChatGPT, write a press release for from this report. So this is, you know, this is kind of brief that you might get as a comms manager or an account exec, targeted business level media. And there you can see I've cut and pasted in the text, about 2,500 words there, and we'll go. And away it goes. So it's synthesized that information based on the GPT-4 language model. And you can see it's producing a fairly decent first draft of the press release. Now, that press release isn't good enough to, you know, probably provide to a client, but it's good enough for me to take and edit so that we've got a client list that sorry, we've got a press release that's, you know, a reasonable first draft. You can see it's, you know, it's got the headlines from the report, it's got the key points, it's got a quote in, although it's not attributed the quote that he's editing. It's talked about some of the risk, but it's balanced that by talking about some of the upside. We're going to come on in a minute and talk about the actual engagement by the public relations community with AI tools. It's captured that, and then it's got, you know, conclusion at the end. So fairly decent first draft. It's also provided a fairly upbeat and optimistic perspective of you know, and a boilerplate of our business. So reasonable first draft. Right, okay, I don't like the headline though, so I'm going to say I mean, I don't know don't know about you guys, but I'm old school. Whenever I'm talking to old school and polite, whenever I'm talking to Siri or Alexa or even OpenAI, I've always got to put in, please, thank you. Please suggest 5 alternative report. And we want to focus these focused on the public relations, trade, media.
Because I've used ChatGPT for puns and different things in press releases, and each time I've come away feeling like I've cheated in an exam, and I kind of feel like sort of a little bit my creativity is being lost a little bit here, and particularly for people that are brand new to the industry, writing the first draft of a press release is probably the most important part. Do you kind of feel like, I don't know, like doing this is sort of chipping away at our creativity at all?
Oh, almost certainly. But almost certainly it is. Of course it is. But you know, it's knowing when to use a tool and when not to. I would not rely on this press release as, you know, I wouldn't submit that to or try and use that as a pitch, but I would use it as a good first draft. You know, in terms of headlines, actually, you know, it's pretty good at just playing with words and giving you alternative versions of a headline. Now, again, I probably wouldn't use any of these, but what I would do is take them and use them as the basis of, you know, of developing something of my own. You know, and you know, actually, they're not that bad. I did get I run a session. We run a community for agency leaders recently, and there was the founder of a very creative agency there that suggested, that said, you know, it's good for finding sort of generic ideas that you almost want to use discount, and you know, and because they are generic, and it is, you know, it is not lowest common denominator, but is, you know, it is based on ideas that already exist. There is nothing. ChatGPT, this comes back to my point, Sam, about artificial. There's nothing here that's going to build new knowledge or create new information. You know, there's a lot of discussion within the academic community about, you know, what this means for research. Actually, it's incredible for research because it gives us access to information much quicker than ever before, and we can make sense of that information much quicker than ever before. But it's not going to create new knowledge. It's not going to come up with an original idea here at all. It's just looking at the data I've created already in different ways. And with that in mind, please suggest. You know, the hardest thing about writing press release is often finding interesting quotes, and you know, here it goes, here's a way, and it's creating draft quotes. We're going to go off spec here a little bit, because one of the things we do when we create press packs often is we ask a spokesperson for a bio. You know, if you put together a press pack, typically the bio as spokesperson will go in there. So this isn't based on the data that I've provided it with during this session, but I can ask, please create a biography for Stephen Waddington. Now here, it will go and look within the large language model for any information it's got about me. And here's the fear bit: if it hasn't got information about me, if it can't find information, it won't say I can't find information, but it will go and make it up. And you know, therein lies one of the risks, because it is a predictive technology. So if we ask it to create a biography, let's have a think. Sorry, excuse me. I don't know why it's having a bit of a thing. I wonder if the internet's gone down. I think the internet might have gone down. No, it's not. All right, I'm going to restart ChatGPT because obviously something's gone wrong there, and reopen that.
I think one of my questions, Stephen, just whilst you're doing that, is at the moment whenever we use influencers, and influencers have to, you know, put on their Instagram story that there's been PR involved or an ad involved.
Yeah.
At the moment, if we use AI, do we need to make it explicit that we've used AI? Do we need to say that to the client? Do we need to say it to the people consuming the material and the AI content? Like it feels at the moment like there's no, well, you mentioned just before, but there's no rules at the moment.
Yeah. So if you're a CIPR or a PRCA member, then within the code of ethics, you certainly, you know, is a point about attribution, and you certainly should attribute. If you used a machine to help with the research project or to create content, you should be disclosing that. It's interesting within the media where they're starting to use AI. They are, you know, they are on Reuters and CNN. They are providing attribution. So yeah, I suggest you should be providing attribution. Sorry, I just want to show you a couple of things here. This is wrong. I haven't been awarded anything by PR Week. So, you know, so it's looking for information it's got, and here it's almost certainly got this off my Amazon bio or my Amazon authored bio or Wikipedia. But, you know, in the app where it isn't able to find stuff, it's making it up. I tried this yesterday ahead of a thing, and it ahead of this session, and it got it even worse than this. So, you know, and that's completely wrong. I resigned I left Newcastle at the start of the year. So, you know, it's a good first draft. The data set, it will say somewhere here, was locked down. This data set was locked down in 2021. So there isn't current information within it. If we were using Google's Bard tool, it will also draw information from the web. So, you know, that's the benefit of Bard, in that it's synthesizing results from the large language model with the live web. So you tend to get slightly better results. Let's just finish this off. Possibly not going to work because it's, yeah, here you go. There you go. I mean, it's done the first draft, doing the first draft of a email pitch.
I thought I was a quick typer. Oh, this guy's going really fast.
Yeah. You know, it's the terrifying thing is here we've done within 10 or 15 minutes the first draft of a media pitch, quotes, headlines, press release. And here's a media here. Please suggest. Here's a media list. There you go. Oh, and it's putting in bios. That's useful. So, you know, you can see terrifyingly quick, and suddenly it's ripping away, a lot of the administration and lower level functions. Now, not withholding all the issues that you raised, Sam, related to disclosure and accuracy and creativity. But when people say, when people claim there's not going to be an impact on the profession, when you see things like that in action, I don't understand how you can not, you can deny it. Right, I'm going to carry on with and I'll run this, try and finish this within the next 5-10 minutes, then we've got a bit of time for questions. What you saw me do there with ChatGPT was enter a series of prompts. Prompt engineering is going to become a fundamental public relations skill. So this is the ability to get the best performance out of machines. McKinsey, the World Economic Forum, have said, one of the future skills for knowledge workers is exactly this. So learning how to get the best performance out of large language models. And, here you go. You can go and ask it for templates, ask it to summarize stuff, as I did in that first example, to create the press release, ask it for insights. This particular issue, if you're trying to get up to speed quickly and do some horizon scanning around a market, and ask it for, planning considerations. If you're putting together a strategic plan, it's very, very good at creating the first draft of anything. Prompt engineering will be a critical skill for public relations, as will fact checking, because you need to check the content, as I showed, as it comes out. In terms of the skills that it's going to impact within public relations, it's a piece of work done in 2018 by Jean Valin and Professor Anne Gregory from Huddersfield University, where they looked at the competencies of a public relations practitioner. And, this wheel has the 12 skills of a practitioner on it, related to the different aspects of the role that we do. Now, what Anne and Jean did is they took this wheel and they compared it with the technologies that were available in 2018 to augment and support practitioners in each of these areas. And this is what they published. They said by 2023, basically this year, artificial intelligence would augment public relations practice in the areas that are in red. And you can see they got it pretty much right. This, again, I'll provide the link to this at the end. You can go and check it out for yourself. Now, the interesting thing is that they're going to repeat this exercise later this year, to understand what the future impact is. The important thing from this chart is if you look at the skills around the bottom in white, there is nowhere, AI doesn't come anywhere near these areas. And this is related to regulation, ethics, to professional standards, so the implementation of ethics and then personal expertise, relationship management. So these areas are all completely safe from artificial intelligence, and actually we can use it as a tool to support us in the areas that you can see and are using it, the areas that you can see in red, so augmenting it. It's really interesting, I think, that Microsoft has made the decision to call its AI application Copilot, because I think that's how we need to think of this technology. It's a means to support what we do in getting us to answers and providing us with research. So where are we in terms of public relations practice and our adoption of AI? The latest data I could find is published by We Communications and USC Annenberg in May, and this said, this is fairly typical. Around 4/5 of practitioners have tried ChatGPT and experimented it, but only 1/5 are comfortable with their level of knowledge around it. There's a massive skills gap here. ECO in February said 4% of leaders who responded to the quarterly benchmarking survey said 4 or 5% of leaders are using it fairly infrequently. Actually, interestingly, 25%, a quarter, said they'd never use it because of the issues related to risk. I don't think you can afford to have your head in the clouds, head in the sand in that way, because these tools are going to become mainstream, whatever. The conversation then naturally turns to, okay, I'm making myself familiar with these tools. I'm, very interested, Stephen. I've seen your demonstration. How do we actually go and figure out where this technology fits and can be embedded within our workflows? There's strong temptation just to jump on the next shiny new tool. I run a Facebook community where, people are sharing tools every day to do different things. I think that's the wrong approach. I think what you've got to do is look at your existing workflow within your communication team or agency, break it down into tasks, like I did there with a press release and producing a media pack, and figure out where you can use tools to help you work smartly or more effectively. Then test those tools in a live work environment to see whether you're going to get the benefit and productivity improvement. Remember that you're going to get the benefit of, as case in point here, produced a press release from a report and a media kit within 15 minutes on the fly. But it all needs fact checking. So there's additional processes you need to add in. And it, almost certainly needs damn good editing as well. Talking of shiny new toys, here's some stuff that you might want to go and try for yourself. I'd urge you to look at Product Hunt or any one of the AI databases that are emerging when you're in this middle section of looking at tools. And there's a whole range of tools for loads of different applications. Some of the most interesting technologies are tackling some of problems such as how do you generate a contact report, or how do you generate make sense of audio transcriptions. It's great that you can produce an audio transcription, but then you can use regenerative technologies, regressive technologies to make sense of those. So things like fire files. I had an instance yesterday where a client's bot joined the meeting before the client did, because they've set up them to jump in from file files and produce text summaries of the meeting and pull out key points. These are tools you can go and be looking at and experimenting with right now. What should you be doing about it right now? Don't get obsessed with the shiny new things. Think about your workflow. Think about the tasks you do. Attend sessions like this, so you're embedding this as part of your learning and development. There is a bit of a backlash in public relations against these technologies for all the reasons I've described. I don't think you can afford to do that, even if you've got the most pessimistic risk point of view. You should be engaging with this technology purely on that basis to help organizations figure that out. And that's my final point. We're constantly within practice looking for the opportunity to engage with management. Well, this gives us probably the biggest issue we've had since the emergence of social forms of media, as a reason to provide insight to management about the issues and impact on engagement around an organization. There are emerging frameworks for practice. Sam asked about disclosure. The PRCA and CIPR haven't yet published codes of ethics or principles purely related to AI, although they do have, I'd argue that their codes of principles cover them already, but specifically the PR Council in the US worked with Davis and Gilbert, US media lawyer, to frame a set of ethics related to practice in AI in public relations. You might want to go and look at those because they answer a lot of the questions related to efficacy. And we produced this paper that you might want to go and download. I'll provide a link to all this material in a moment, that takes you through, narrates this presentation I've just delivered, and has links throughout. If you want access to any of those materials, head to the CIPR website. It's a great place for resources, and that management paper that we published last week that contains all the information I've covered today, is at wads.co/AI. That's wads.co/AI. Right, we're up on time. That's me. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm at Wads on Twitter. I appreciate that, under the rise of Elon Musk, a lot of people have stepped away from Twitter, but you always also find me on LinkedIn or good old-fashioned email. Right, with that, if that's all right, Sam, I'm going to stop sharing, and if you've got any questions for the last 10 minutes or so, be glad to try and answer those.
Just wait for everybody to type. That was like a live episode of Black Mirror, that was, Stephen, on ChatGPT.
Please put a LinkedIn review with that on.
I will. I read actually that Charlie Brooker was ChatGPT came out just after he had wrapped on this final season, and he asked it to write a script, and he got it back, and it was absolutely awful. But I feel like they should have just filmed it. I feel like they've missed a trick there. They should have just absolutely filmed it and done it all. But
They do. I love Charlie. He's so clever. I mean, it's never good. You can see it's never going to replace original creativity, because it hasn't the ability to create new content or new information. It's all based on pre-existing content.
Yeah, I think my worry with ChatGPT and AI, as we said just before, is it can do so much so well on those early first drafts. And I think for people that are new to the industry and sort of need to learn the ropes from the very bottom, it kind of takes away all of those steps. And kind of, I think, what skills really do sort of the next generation of PR professionals need to know and learn, sort of in a world where they're going to be working alongside AI?
Yeah, I do. I think your point is well made, that they're going to be working alongside AI, and so it's looking to where it can support you, optimize it to support you, and where you absolutely wouldn't want it. And the creative process, I think, is one area where you absolutely want it, but making sense of large amounts of data and automating, administrative functions is a useful area. There is, as you say, for entry level roles, actually in any professional management or knowledge working role, there is a concern, because how do you pick up these fundamental traits and fundamental skills? And yeah, I've no answer to that, because it's an issue the industry needs to think about.
Cool. Okay, we've got a question from Georgia. Georgia has asked, how do we convince clients to get on board with ChatGPT and AI in general?
So my experience is forward. Clients are already thinking about this, because they're thinking about the benefits to create content and use these tools to frankly create efficiencies. Certainly progressive clients are, and there the response has to be, you're creating fairly low grade content, and yes, it is a Go-Palette support, but human skills are still very much required within the creative process. How do you, beyond that, basic horizon scanning around an organization about how AI is going to impact the organization and its position within the public sphere. We've got the same issues that came along with the internet and with social media. So I do that.
Okay. Hannah has asked, do you think agencies need to set out parameters for how their teams should be using AI?
Absolutely. Yeah, you really should. So I showed you the example of the leadership that's been shown by the PR Council in creating, go and have a look at that document, in creating a standard to say where you can use it, where you should use it, where you shouldn't use it, being cognizant of the issues as bias and fact checking. and issues related to disclosure. So absolutely, not just agencies though, but anyone in a communication function.
Joe's asked, with prompt engineering, do you think we could train ChatGPT to produce better and better drafts of content, or is it likely always going to be first draft quality?
It's going to be first draft quality. The better as the language model. What you need is the language models to improve. With the language model, as the language models improve, you get access to large amounts of data. So I would a criticism of GPT-3 was and Bard actually, that you can spot immediately when it's written something, because it has a certain synthetic type of content creation. It's apparent that the content's been created by a robot, and certainly to the trained eye you can spot it. That changed with ChatGPT-4, and it's getting harder with subsequent versions of large language models. That they get bigger and bigger, it'll be harder and harder. In fact, we've run some experiments asking it to write press releases in the style of Tennyson or Wordsworth, and it does a terrifyingly good job. So it's just going to get better and better.
Last question from Sheila. Do you see AI being taught in schools and universities?
Brilliant question. Whether it's taught or not, I think students are using it already. There's a concern, obviously, around disclosure and cheating. And so we're getting, software responses to the whole issue of how you examine someone and how you stop plagiarism and the use of ChatGPT to create answers. Actually, I think I'm a big fan of Sir Ken Robinson, who said, our current education system is designed for the industrialized, post-industrialized revolution. It's not designed for the knowledge economy, and we've got to adapt these sorts of technologies into how we're working. And there are conversations going on just like this within education at the moment to figure out how we do it. The initial response was shut it all down, block access to it, but you just can't, because it's happening anyway.
Well, Stephen, thank you. Thank you for terrifying us on this Wednesday afternoon.
I haven't terrified you, don't you?
You haven't. You've excited us.
I hope I've excited you. Sorry about the tech fail. It would not be a live demo without a tech fail.
Wouldn't.
No.
That was just a tiny little taster into the world of AI. But if you are interested, if anyone's interested to know more and to learn more from Stephen and other industry experts, then please do sign up for the PRCA CIPR Midlands PR Conference, which is happening on the 6th of July. Perfect.
Looking forward to that. See you then, Sam.
See you then. Thank you, everybody. Thanks all.